Deep beneath the turquoise waters of planet Aquarius 7, in a city made of crystalline coral, lived a young squid named Quintux, or simply Quinn. Most of his kin spent their lives exploring the depths, creating intricate patterns on the sea floor, or hunting fluorescent fish. But Quinn was different. His 8 tentacles constantly reached upward toward the shimmering, sparkling surface where, as he knew, a completely different world began. The stars. He saw them through the thick layers of water. Microscopic sparks resembling distant fireflies. In Aquarian culture, stars were symbols of impossible dreams, as no Aquarian had ever left their home planet. Their biology, requiring high pressure and a liquid medium, was incompatible with the vacuum of space. Quinn spent his youth secretly studying ancient holographic records found in the sunken research vessels of other races. He was fascinated by the ships that plowed through space, the complexity of their control panels, and the grace of movement in a three-dimensional vacuum. He could spend hours reenacting those movements in his mind, feeling as if his own tentacles were gripping an imaginary helm. His multitasking abilities, natural to all cephalopods, were developed to an incredible level. Each of his 8 tentacles had its own neural cluster capable of independent thought, allowing Quinn to process 8 different streams of information simultaneously. His mentor, an old and wise philosopher squid named Octavius, often scoffed, "Quinn, you see stars that do not exist for us. Your nature anchors you to this world like a ship to its anchor." But Quinn did not listen. He knew his destiny was not in the depths. It was among the stars. One day, during a routine investigation of an anomaly on the ocean floor, Quinn stumbled upon something incredible, a small, damaged probe ship that clearly did not belong to the Galactic Council. Its hull was scarred, but most importantly, it was equipped with a protective field that could withstand the pressure. Using his tentacles, Quinn carefully slipped inside a damaged hatch. The ship was filled with alien machinery, but to his surprise, there was a small oxygen capsule inside. Sitting at a damaged console was a creature unlike any Aquarian. It was a young Zenit, a member of the Zela race, known for their engineering prowess and a somewhat paranoid attitude toward technology. Zenit was small, covered in scales, with 4 eyes and 3 thin but agile arms. He was wounded, and his ship was destroyed. Quintux, despite his natural caution, felt a strange compassion. He began to study Zenit's console, using his tentacles for manipulations a human hand couldn't even imagine. He quickly realized Zenit was trying to launch an emergency beacon, but the damage was too severe. Using his unique intellect, Quinn began to rewire the circuits, mimicking the algorithms he had seen in the holographic records. Zenit, regaining consciousness, was shocked to see a squid manipulating his technology. His first reaction was fear, but then he saw the speed, precision, and intuitive understanding with which Quinn worked. Attempting to communicate through a universal translator, Zenit explained that his ship had been attacked by pirates and he had fled, only to crash on this unknown water planet. Zenit was an engineer, but not a pilot. He was in despair, realizing he would perish without help. Quinn, for his part, saw an opportunity. "You can help me," Quintux wrote using light signals that Zenit's translator decoded. "I see that you understand these machines. I need a way to survive outside the water." Zenit, though hesitant at first, agreed. He was amazed at how quickly Quintux grasped the concepts of space navigation. Together, they began modifying the probe ship. Using his knowledge, Zenit transformed one of the large cargo pods into a sealed, reinforced suit capable of withstanding a vacuum and providing the necessary pressure for Quinn. The suit was equipped with manipulators that mimicked tentacle movements, allowing Quinn to work with external objects. But the most ingenious part was the internal interface system. Zenit integrated advanced neural links that allowed Quinn to connect directly to the ship's systems, receiving feedback through tentacle sensors. When Quintux first found himself in the suit, he felt clumsy and helpless. But Zenit was patient. Day after day, they trained. Quinn, using his multitasking nature, learned to control different systems simultaneously. His 8 tentacles could simultaneously control acceleration, stabilization, navigation, weaponry, shields, communication, sensor analysis, and even repair drones. It was a symphony of control that no race in the galaxy with only 2 or 3 limbs could ever imagine. When the modified probe was ready, Quintux and Zenit made a daring escape. They blasted off the planet, using the ship's hidden capabilities. However, their journey was short-lived. The pirates who had been hunting Zenit discovered them. This was Quinn's first real space battle. He was in a panic, but his instincts, adapted to a 3-dimensional aquatic environment, proved invaluable in the vacuum. He didn't just fly, he swam through asteroid fields, using maneuvering thrusters. His 8 tentacles simultaneously operated the targeting system, diverted shields to vulnerable points, changed thrust vectors, and shot down enemy missiles. Watching him from the command chair, Zenit was stunned. This is incredible," he exclaimed. "You are thinking in 8 dimensions at once." After a frantic chase and several risky maneuvers, Quintux managed to destroy 2 pirate ships and escape. It was not just survival, it was a triumph. He proved that an Aquarian could fly among the stars. But now they were alone in the vast cosmos with minimal resources. The escape led them to a remote Galactic Council station. When they landed, the guards were shocked to see a squid in a bulky spacesuit stepping out of the pilot's cabin. It was a precedent. No Aquarian race had ever left their home world. Quintux and Zenit were taken for questioning. The Council, known for its bureaucracy and adherence to protocol, didn't know how to react. Many treated Quinn with skepticism, and some with outright prejudice. Creatures requiring high pressure and liquid to survive were considered incapable of space travel. However, Zenit, as a witness and engineer, fiercely defended his partner. He spoke of Quinn's reaction speed, his multitasking, and his intuitive understanding. They were also supported by Azothian diplomats, a race that valued knowledge and unique abilities. They saw in Quinn not a freak, but a symbol of a new era. Ultimately, the Council decided to conduct a trial. Quintux had to fight the best pilots in the galaxy in virtual simulators. This was his chance to prove his worth. The trials were grueling. He fought representatives of the Lightning race, known for their extreme reaction speeds, the Chrome K warriors, famous for their aggressive tactics, and the maneuvering masters of the VRKS race. But Quintux was different. His 8 tentacles, each independently processing information, allowed him to literally see several steps ahead in 3-dimensional space. He could simultaneously manage acceleration, thrust vectors, shields, weaponry, countermeasure systems, analyze enemy movements, and plot flanking routes. It was as if 8 separate pilots were working in perfect harmony, but guided by a single brain. His combat style was unpredictable. He followed no patterns, which confounded even the most advanced combat computers. He isn't just reacting," one of the judges remarked in awe. "He is improvising. He is dancing." Quintux won all the simulations, often by a landslide. He became a sensation. The Galactic Council, despite its traditional conservatism, was forced to admit, Quintux was a genius of piloting. He was offered a commission in the newly formed Corps of Research and Adaptation. He was no longer just a squid in a suit. He was an officer. Life on a space station was full of challenges. Gravity, the air environment, alien customs, everything was new to Quinn. But he adapted. His suit became his second skin, and the ship an extension of his body. Zenit became his permanent technician and loyal friend. Together, they improved Quinn's suit, integrating new sensors and enhancing the neural interface. Quintux became known for his unique piloting style, capable of performing maneuvers that no other pilot could even imagine. He could simultaneously execute a precision jump, activate protective shields, deploy minefields, and fire accurately at multiple targets at once. His reputation spread rapidly across the galaxy. Some considered him a mutant, others a miracle of nature. But everyone recognized his talent. He became part of the legends told about the galaxy's most unusual heroes. However, galactic peace was fragile. Disturbing reports began to arrive from a remote, unexplored part of the galaxy. Ships were vanishing without a trace. Navigation buoys were going dark. Soon, the Galactic Council identified the source of these disappearances, a new, aggressive race known as the Devourers. These were large, predatory beings traveling in massive organic ships that seemed alive. They didn't seek resources, they sought new genetic materials for assimilation and adaptation. The Council fleet, accustomed to technological wars, was bewildered. The organic ships of the Devourers had no energy shields in the conventional sense, but their bioarmor plating was resistant to plasma and lasers. They were unpredictable, their movements chaotic but deadly effective. The first major battle with the Devourers took place in the Seventh Spiral system, a strategic hub for trade routes. The Council fleet suffered crushing losses. Their capital ships, built for power and endurance, were simply torn apart by the organic tentacles of the Devourer ships. Quintux and his ship, the Eighth Dance, were in the center of this slaughter. He commanded a small squadron of scouts tasked with gathering data on the enemy. He witnessed massive Council cruisers being turned into scrap. His unique abilities again proved invaluable. He could dodge the organic projectiles of the Devourers, navigate through debris fields, and gather information on their vulnerabilities. Analyzing the data, Zenit discovered that the organic Devourer ships had a strange weakness. Their energy cores were protected by a bioorganic shell that was sensitive to specific vibrational waves. Quintux returned to base with the vital data. The Council was on the verge of despair. They had no weapon capable of standing against the Devourers. Their cores react to resonance frequencies, Zenit explained. But to create such a weapon takes time, and we don't have it. What if we don't create it? Quintux said through the interface. What if we build it during the battle? His plan was insane. He proposed modifying his own kinetic cannon so they could fire projectiles that generated this resonance frequency. This would require manual calibration during the fight, constantly adapting to enemy targets. No pilot could do this. No one, except Quinn. The Council, having no other options, agreed. Quintux and Zenit worked tirelessly, converting the Eighth Dance into a mobile laboratory and test bed. The final battle took place in the Chronos system, the last line of defense before the Central Worlds. The Council fleet, exhausted but unbroken, gathered for a final stand. Quintux on the Eighth Dance led the strike force of the fastest and most maneuverable ships. When the battle began, Quintux started his impossible task. His 8 tentacles worked frantically at the control panel. When a shell hit an organic ship, it began to vibrate, tearing the bioarmor apart from the inside like an overloaded resonator. He's destroying their cores. Zenit shouted, watching the screens. It's working. The battle was long and bloody. Dozens of Council ships were lost, but thanks to Quintux, the Devourers began to retreat. Their organic vessels, vibrating and disintegrating, could not cope with this new, incomprehensible threat. Quintux, exhausted but triumphant, led his fleet to victory. The Devourers were pushed back, and their fleet shattered. The galaxy was saved. When the Eighth Dance landed at the Council's central station, Quintux stepped out of his suit to a standing ovation. He was more than just a hero, he was a symbol. A symbol that even the most unexpected beings can change the fate of the entire galaxy. After the war, Quintux became a living legend. His story, the story of a squid in a suit who saved the galaxy, became known in every corner. He continued to serve in the core, exploring new worlds and developing new tactics. His suit became a subject of study for engineers of all races, and his unique abilities became an inspiration for many. Zenith became the chief engineer of his team, his best friend, and the only one who truly understood Quinn. Together, they continued to push the boundaries of the possible. Aquarius 7 was no longer isolated. Thanks to Quinn, the Galactic Council created new protocols for the integration of races with unique biology. Now, other Aquarians could travel into space using specially designed ships. They brought their culture, knowledge, and art into the wider world. Quintux, once a small creature from the depths who dreamed of the stars, proved that true strength is not in size or form, but in mind, courage, and the ability to adapt. He became the galaxy's best pilot, an 8-armed virtuoso who showed everyone that the universe is open to anyone who has a dream and the courage to pursue it. And sometimes, to save the universe, you don't need a hero with 2 hands, you need one with 8 tentacles.